Hi, volleyball fans, and welcome back to Volley Talk, the podcast created for volleyball lovers who want to dig deep into what is going on in NCAA and international volleyball. I'm your host, Sarah Pavin. I'm an Olympian, beach volleyball world champion, former Nebraska Cornhusker, and longtime pro, both indoor and on the beach.
And I'm Adam Schultz, former indoor player, international volleyball coach, and the show's resident stat guy.
There were a couple key matchups this week.
Yes, there were.
That we are going to talk about. And something that came up last week sparked a lot of conversation online. So we are going to do a segment devoted to that. The hint is it started with some comments on Bergen Riley.
And devolved from there.
We have some happenings and news that happened outside of the NCAA world that have got people buzzing. So we're going to touch on that as well. We are very excited. So let's get started. All right. For the NCAA rankings for last week, seeds 1 through 19 held their spot. I think that's virtually unheard of. We also had no new teams enter the top 25.
Which means Penn State is still hanging around.
Penn State is still hanging around. They were 24.
Somehow I think they're going to go up in the rankings even though they lost this week.
This makes no sense. Somebody actually asked, why does Penn State have the NCAA tournament on their schedule? Does this mean they think they're going to make it?
I mean, their RPI puts them in a good place, but it's just a baffling
They have
situation.
the tournament on their schedule 100% because they expect to be in the tournament.
And in fairness...
And they should. They're the only team that's played in all of them.
Yeah. I mean, we joke about it, but they're going.
I can't. Guys.
I don't agree with it, but they're going to go. There's no way.
Yeah, they have this tournament on their schedule because they're fully expecting to be there. And I bet whoever created that web page did it at the beginning of the season. So,
which would have been a fair assumption.
But the fact that they're still in the top 25, this is actually outrageous.
They better not be next week.
They actually beat Ohio State in 5. But Ohio State's been baggled all Big Ten season.
Yippee.
Ohio State's not on the top 25. Anyway, yeah, that's what the rankings were doing last week. Not a ton of unexpected results this week, but guess what conference handed us the most?
The Big 12.
Ding, ding, ding. All right. Kansas State beat Baylor in 4. We kind of watched that game.
I don't even know what to say anymore. There's just... the highs are good, the lows are not good, and whichever team can serve the ball consistently tough seems to win those matches.
TCU lost both of their games to Colorado in 5 and Iowa State in 4.
I've stopped being surprised.
I take everything back that I said a couple weeks ago about TCU finishing second in the Big 12. Let's move them down to 6th.
I just don't understand how you can become a tire fire so quickly. They looked so good at the beginning of the season
for like over half the season,
yeah.
And then literally
but I think they've
hit a wall.
They've changed their setter now. They're trying to slow the offense down. They don't know what to do. They're lost in the desert at this point, and it's not coming back.
Yeah. Utah beat BYU in 5.
We got a question about BYU, which we'll probably address maybe next week, but they also just can't seem to finish matches. And Utah's not a bad team. Like, again, all of those teams they can win on any given night depending on how they play. And the lack of consistency, especially when you're trying, like, it's tournament time.
Like the Big 12, I'm like, eye roll over here at this point. Okay, you guys just figure it out and just send us a few teams for the tournament. Thank you.
It's not even about playing well at this point. It's about just being marginally consistent to win matches. They're not great to watch.
I mean, from like an execution standpoint, no. Is it entertaining in the sense that you never know what's going to happen?
Well, sure.
Sure.
That comment was purely about the
level
of volleyball.
Yeah.
It's play really well for half a set or a set, and then they can't get a serve in, and it's just all over the map.
Watching it with a critical eye is a little aggravating at times.
Yeah.
The only other upset was Oregon took down Purdue in 5. That's it for the Big 12. That's it. Oregon beat Purdue in 5.
Again, I'm not surprised anytime Oregon wins a match.
Except they're like 12th or 13th in the Big 10 right now, which shocks me.
I was a little shocked to see that as well. But they're capable of playing good volleyball. They've got some really dynamic players.
Alana Clemente,
I really like her. I think she's in the running for freshman of the year. I don't think
Big 10 freshman of the year.
Yes, but I think she'll be in the conversation. I don't think she's going to beat out Spears, but
for national freshman
of the year. But I think she will be in the conversation. Like if it's a vote, she's getting some votes for top 3. I think
she's so good.
New program, new coach, all new players. There's definitely inconsistency there.
Purdue, you're like second in the Big 10 right now. Hello.
See, the caveat with Purdue is they're consistent, but they're not particularly big. So if they make you beat them. But if you come out to beat them, they're beatable. They're just incredibly disciplined. I didn't get a chance to watch that game. I think I might try either Monday or Tuesday because I'm curious to see that. But I personally really like Oregon.
Last one, ACC. SMU beat Stanford in 4. I am just going to say, I feel like people are not going to like a lot of what I have to say this episode. I feel like SMU is getting the sloppy seconds from Pitt for a lot of matches this year. Miami comes in, beats Pitt, and then SMU plays them like the next day or 2 days later, and Miami can't beat them. Same thing happens to Stanford. Stanford goes all out against Pitt, huge win, down to the wire, and then SMU swoops in 2 days later for like the come down after those huge upsets. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't want to call
not
it
that like a Stanford Pitt thing is like a huge upset, but you get the idea.
It's a big win though.
But it's like these teams can prepare for Pitt all week long, and then like SMU is like the second match, like the turnover match that you have 1 day in between to prepare for, and then they like. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a bit of a trap game because you played Pitt, who's a very good team. Always go to the Final Four for first in the ACC. You both have the best records. You come out and win. Like that's an emotional win. That's a long game. You pulled it out. Yeah, you're right. And then you got to come back and you got to play SMU, who is a good team in their own right. It's a tough.
But SMU has come and swooped in after huge upsets that teams have against Pitt. Granted, I think it was the opposite against Louisville. I think SMU played Louisville first, but still.
Yeah.
And then as Stanford.
Well. And I'm not sure. Their setter went out in the second set.
Yeah.
Concussions and that whole thing, which is serious. But
she took it off the forehead.
Right. But I don't know if she came back or not. I didn't finish watching that match. So that's definitely a piece of it. But you've got to take care of that match. That would have locked them in to first in the ACC. Only playing Louisville at the very end. But now there's 3 teams tied with 2 losses. SMU and the next teams are there with 3 losses. It is tight, and it's going to be down to the wire.
That's my issue with a lot of these teams this year.
Stanford could have locked it up and let it go.
How many opportunities? Like these teams come off like huge wins and then can't string it together 2 nights in a row. Like, come on, let's get it going here. You have a chance to lock it up, and Adam's upset because his prediction might not come true now.
That's fair. They still, if they can beat Louisville, they have the head-to-head with Pitt, I believe. But we'll see. I have to look into the tiebreak procedures. They made their life more difficult than it needed to be. That's for sure.
Story of the season for everybody, I would say. Well, that's it. Those are the unexpected results of the week. Okay, big news.
Not great news.
Out of the beach world, which bridges the indoor world, bridges the Nebraska world. Allie Batenhorst has tested positive for a banned substance. And so she is suspended.
So we've gotten a bunch of questions about how this all works in different scenarios in comparison. So let's spend just a minute or two kind of going through how testing works internationally and how it's different than college.
So, I mean, if you're part of a national team program, your country's governing body can test you. So in the U.S., that's it's called USADA, U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. Canada has one. Every country has one. That is for internal athlete testing.
And as we've seen, those results are not binding.
We won't dive into that one too deep, but in Canada, they are.
Well, I bring that up because there was a direct comparison. somebody asked and brought up the Alex Kleinman situation from last Olympics, saying, she tested positive going into the cycle and she was allowed to continue to compete. Do you think this will happen with Batenhorst? Now, there's a very large difference in the positive test results. So Alex Kleinman was tested by the USA governing body and tested positive. Now, they have the choice of handling those situations in whatever regard they would like. As you said, those results are not binding.
And I believe she was tested out of competition. So technically, I guess you could say that the countries test to potentially cut off any potential issues when the international bodies test.
Correct. So
Canada's not so nice.
Yeah, Canada is not the same way, but the U.S. has operated in that regard in a bunch of different cases. The difference here is that Batenhorst tested positive with a global governing body test.
Yeah. So at the Newport Beach tournament, the FIVB hired an agency to conduct tests on their behalf, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when the international governing body decides to do these tests, it's out of the US's control. It goes international. And that is the big difference here. Because Alex Kleinman, when she tested positive indoor, I believe that was an international body and she was suspended for that one.
Correct. It's not looking great for Batenhorst. Her agent has said that it's a prescription and they just haven't filed the paperwork. But in general, the global governing body
they filed the paperwork now.
Yeah.
The question is, did they file? Because you can have what's called a therapeutic use exemption. And so if you get notification from a doctor that you need a certain medication, you fill out this paperwork and then it's a therapeutic use exemption. If you are tested with that in your system, it is fine, but it has to be approved. I'm not sure you can do it retroactively. And I don't know if she filled out the TUE before she was tested.
And we've seen this happen before. There have been other athletes who have missed the Olympics, specifically in beach volleyball, for using, specific creams that had banned substances. And there was no
the Italian
exemption.
player.
The Italian player.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also happened to a Czech player at one point, if I am not mistaken. This is a big deal. And there's no guarantee that it's going to go away. It will be interesting to see how this plays out.
I think it all depends on what the prescription is, when the timeline for filing the TUE happened. But I don't know. I can only speak from a Canadian perspective, and the way that Canada handles anti-doping education, anti-doping infractions, etc., is incredibly strict.
Yeah.
So I only have my experience from that. So I don't know how this is going to play out, but that might be the shortest beach volleyball career in history.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated if we hear anything, but these things don't get resolved quickly in general, and so this could be an ongoing saga.
So another thing in what is normal, I think, is if you are under investigation, you are not allowed to train with your partner. You can't train in a USA environment at all. So she has to completely remove herself from all USA volleyball affiliations. She cannot legally train with Sarah Hughes, with her coach, have any interaction with USA people. That is how it goes. Like, because it's beach volleyball and they train like out in their own court on the beach, like, will they get around it? Maybe, I don't know. But typically
that's the framework.
The framework is that you have to remove yourself completely while under investigation.
That's a super unfortunate situation, and we'll see what happens.
On the pro side of things, it has been announced that the Orlando Valkyries are going to be competing in the Club World Championships happening in São Paulo, Brazil from December 9th to 14th. For those interested in the men's, that is happening December 16th to 21st in Belém, Brazil. Basically, how this came about is 3 Asian teams declined the offer to go, leaving a spot available, and the Orlando Valkyries are going. So for Club World Championships, we've got Conigliano.
That game will be close.
Scandici.
Also close.
We've got Osasco, Praia Clube from Brazil. We've got a team from Egypt, a team from Kazakhstan, and a team from Peru, which I think Kieran Van Rijk actually signed with that Peruvian team to play Club World Championships, and then she's going to go play China after that, is what I read. Somebody confirm that for me. We've gotten so many people reach out about this development. Questions ranging from why not Love? Like, why did they pick an MLV team instead of Love? Does this propel MLV as being more prestigious than Love? How do you think Love will respond? Then a lot of cheeky comments like, well, those games are going to be close. So what are your thoughts?
I don't know who was approached. I don't know what
I have heard that Love, this is through a third party, one of my sources, love my sources. Love has said that they were offered a spot and they said no because of prior contractual agreements they have in place. Not sure what contractual agreement would ever make it so that your team can't play in Club World Championships, but the baby is sucking on her hand if you hear a sound.
I don't think any of the North American teams are at a point where they will be competitive with the best teams at Club Worlds.
Do you remember when I went to Club Worlds and they sent that team from Iowa?
Yes.
That was a disaster, you guys. First of all, every team there was like, who is this team? Secondly, those games were destructions.
I think that there is
Why is Adam trying to be nice here? That's not what we do here. What's going on?
My initial instinct is that if you're trying to create a league that you're branding as one of the best in the world, you can't go get hammered by the best teams in the world.
Are you talking about Love?
Yes. We all know.
And Turkey's not even sending a team.
I think you're going to be competitive with the team from Egypt, potentially the team from Peru, but maybe not, depending on if they've stacked their roster with players like Kira Van Rijk. You have a team from Kazakhstan coming, probably be competitive with there. But we're talking about going up and playing against Scandici, Osasco, Conegliano. You can't go out and score 12 points and seem like you're competitive. I completely understand the decision not to go, given where they are in their growth as a league compared to these other teams. It's not quote unquote fair. They're not competing on even ground. So I understand why they don't want to go.
Do you think if you're going to put yourself out there and continually say we're one of the best leagues in the world, do you think that that's fair to just not show up? Like, I feel like you need to back up what you're saying. I understand why they're not going, but I'm saying if you're going to put it out there, put your money where your mouth is.
But you're putting it out there to your local markets who don't understand how good international volleyball is.
This is what we've been saying, though.
Yes.
Do you think this makes the MLV seem more prestigious than Love?
For the 2 weeks until they play, maybe, but not really. Honestly, I don't think anyone cares.
There are certain markets that definitely care about Club Worlds.
Here. Like in the U.S.
Oh, you don't think it matters in the U.S.?
I don't think it matters
Okay.
the U.S. Oh, yes. Winning, don't get me wrong. Winning Club World Championships is prestigious. There are teams who definitely want to do that. Well, let's be honest. No Love team and no PVF team or MLV team or whatever they are is going to make the Final Four of that tournament. And those games won't be close. You get to go, you get to compete. I think it's a cool feather in the cap for MLV to say we went and competed at Club Worlds, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think anyone in the U.S. cares, and I don't think it really materially means anything. If anything, it would hurt you more than it would help you by going.
Be sure to tune in. Those games are going to be on VBTV, I believe, and those start December 9th, so we'll give you a heads up when those are coming. But that was the big news. I can't even tell you the number of messages we got on Instagram about this. I don't think it's going to go too well.
This, to me, is a definition of a lose-lose situation. There's nothing to gain, and you're only going to not be competitive.
So those are kind of the happenings of this week. We had a couple non-NCAA things, big things. So let us know your thoughts. I'm sure there are lots of opinions out there about what is going on, so be sure to hit us up.
So last week, we were specifically talking about Bergen Riley and her international potential, and that sparked a little bit of a bigger conversation online about what do we look for international players, for people who we think have potential to make it to the next level. And there were lots of comments about Bergen Riley already playing on the national team, a couple other players already playing on the national team. And so I wanted to clarify our position on this in terms of how we look at this. And then we had some great questions on position by position, what would we look for and things like that. So we're going to have a conversation now about college potential and moving to the next level and just how the two of us view it and how that might be a little different from how the casual college fan might think about it.
Let's make one thing straight here too. B team, U23 team, Pan Am Cup team. We do not consider that national team. National team, we consider you're on a VNL roster, you're on the Olympic roster, World Champs roster. We'll even extend that to the wide roster for those teams. Bergen Riley was not on any of those. So the only current college players who were on the national team in our eyes are Olivia Babcock and Logan Lidnicki.
I think the frame of reference is important. Age group is a great accomplishment, but a lot of times the people who play age group don't go on to actually play national team.
Or Pan Am Cup roster. That's the B team.
Yes.
I personally don't consider that the national team.
No, me either. And so when we talk about international experience, I think we don't count that. For all of those kind of comments that we got, we understand that she's played with the national team, but we're talking about making that jump to the U.S. national team and having your number called when it matters. That's kind of our definition. And don't get me wrong, Bergen Riley and lots of the players we talk about can play pro. They can play love. They can play in a bunch of different leagues and have that experience. But we're talking about moving to the top of the top. So I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page.
Yeah, like there's playing pro, and then there's like
playing pro.
You know, like you're in a Champions League, going the distance in Champions League. You're putting yourself forward as a national team contender because of the teams and level you're playing at pro. And then there's like people who play pro to say they played pro.
Yeah. The next piece of that is you have to consider like the number of athletes who get to play college sports is a fraction of the population. The number of players who get to go on to play for a national team is infinitesimally small. It's crazy. And the other thing you have to consider, and I'm going to use Bergen Riley as an example because we've talked about her, and she is probably one of the best college setters currently playing the game, and you will not get an argument from the two of us about that.
I would argue, like, and we've had questions about this. She is this season I would say the best setter in
Fair.
the NCAA. People have asked about her versus Alexis Stuckey. I would say pre-injury, Alexis Stuckey had really high potential. Her physicality, I would have argued that she could be national team potential. I'm not sure that she has come back from this injury in a way that can make her part of that conversation anymore. I would have put Izzy Stark on that level. I still think she is on that level. No clue if she's coming back or what her future plans for the sport are. Stuckey and Stark, I would say, have that it factor for national team. I just wanted to highlight because people have brought up the Alexis Stuckey, Bergen Riley conversation in numerous questions.
Totally fair.
And we can build on that a bit more later.
So the other thing we need to think about is nobody ages out of the national team. You have to either take a step back where you're not good enough to play anymore, but if you're good enough,
or
you can stay.
Make different life decisions.
Yeah, totally. You can stay and play forever. So you don't have that same filtering through of athletes. It's not to say that Bergen Riley's class gets a setter on the national team. It may skip a whole generation because somebody is just that good. And I put it in context of, think about Jordan Larson. She played on the national team for 15 to 20 years, and didn't matter how good you were, you weren't taking the P2 spot away from you. So there was 15 years where it didn't matter how good you were, you weren't taking that spot from her.
Because you weren't better than Jordan.
There's no guaranteed window for national team. And that's what makes it so hard to play. I liken it to thinking like Sarah and Jordan, if they played for Nebraska for 15 years, you would never have needed another left side or a right side. Just nobody would ever got that opportunity. And that's what makes it so difficult to play in those teams. People don't leave. You have to beat them out. And
I think so we've talked about this at length. I think that this year in the NCAA, it's not good. It's not a good year for talent and skill level. And I know people are going to be like, we're crazy. No, trust me. The number of athletes from this generation that you are going to see play on the national team, I think is very small. I think the generation from like 05 to 08 was a special generation where you had so many athletes from that group go and have really long, really successful professional and national team careers. We're talking the Jordan Larsons, the Megan Hodges, Nicole Fawcett, Krista Harmato, Faluka Akinradawo, me, like
a bunch of setters.
Alicia Glass. Yeah. You had that generation of athlete
they were built different.
It was just a special time in NCAA volleyball where those players made really long and successful pro careers. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing that same number of athletes coming through the NCAA at the same time and staying with the national team. So when people are like, how can you say Bergen Riley won't be? Is she better than Jordan Poulter? Is she better than Micah Hancock? No, and she's not.
And so this is where you get into the conversation of, okay, how do you make a national team? And somebody asked, like, position by position, what do you guys look at for this? Which I think is a great question. If you look at the setters who have played for the U.S. in the near past, let's think about them. You, as an athlete, you need to find a way to differentiate yourself. Everybody is a good setter. Everybody can locate the ball. Everybody can do all of the things, but you need something that makes you special or sets you apart. And I think that's where, at least for me, when I look at Bergen Riley, I'm not sure what that is. She's great for Nebraska because she's so consistent. She sets the ball. She works hard. She's good defensively, not great.
She's pretty good defensively.
Okay, but who's the best U.S. defending setter, would you say?
Orlini, probably.
Okay.
She's not. She's done with national team. I know that. But
that's the level of defense we're talking about. And can Bergen Riley get there? Maybe. But I haven't seen that yet. You know, you look at Jordan Poulter, super fast offense, very physical, really good blocker, 6'2". You know, Micah Hancock.
Serve
Sets her apart. Like, for me, for Bergen Riley to make that jump, and for any player from college, you need to have something special that sets you apart from those athletes. And I'm not sure I can pick what that would be.
Well, and I'm going to go back to the Nebraska UCLA discussion and what I have been saying about Bergen Riley since last year. Her out of system setting is inconsistent and her back setting is inconsistent.
Because you are going to have to set big right sides who are physical in tempo, and she has struggled with that with Adriano.
With the personnel that the U.S. national team currently has on the left side, the passing is their biggest issue. We've talked about this all VNL season. Again, I don't know if Kelsey Cook is going to come back after her pregnancy. I don't know if Justine is going to come back after her pregnancy, which were the two remaining top ball control players for the U.S. Do I want Bergen Riley setting the passes that Logan Eggleston and Sarah Franklin are putting up? No, I don't, because I don't love how she sets out a system. You might love her, but there's no predictor, just like there's no predictor how a top high school recruit is going to make the transition to the college game. It is even harder to predict how a top college player is going to translate to the international game because, and we've talked about this so many times, the NCAA sets it up so that their athletes can have success with the substitutions, with this, with that, with the rules that they have. So you can't predict. Look at all the draft picks in the NFL, in the NBA, etc., who were expected to be huge assets in the pros who just didn't cut it or were underwhelming in their performance. It's the same thing with volleyball. You can't necessarily predict. And maybe 5 years from now, you're all going to be like, you guys are so stupid. You were wrong. Maybe.
And Bergen Riley definitely has a chance to separate herself. We're not saying she can't do that, but she's going to have to go find her niche, which she hasn't had to do at Nebraska. That's the thing. There's no indicator right now for me looking at her that goes, that's what sets her apart. That's what's going to make her wanted on the national team.
Yeah. And the Izzy Stark discussion, when I think about Bergen Riley, do I think that Bergen Riley could have taken the Penn State team from last year and won a national championship with them? I don't, honestly. So Izzy Stark, why did she help propel Penn State to the top? The Penn State was not a good passing team. The way that she was able to pinpoint her set location and keep her hitters in rhythm all over the floor was so impressive. Not to mention, she's 6'1". She put up a decent sized block. Her defense was actually pretty good, and her offensive ability was much better. I don't see that same thing from Bergen Riley.
That's kind of the setting position. Let's move on and say you're evaluating left sides. What are you looking at from a left side point of view to go, okay, there's national team potential. There's good international potential. And well, you go first and then I'll throw in my piece.
Well, I think you have to be a 6 rotation player.
At minimum. There's no getting around that.
Minimum. Like, you can't be one of those left sides that's just like subbed out of the back row. You need to be able to pass. You need to be able to play defense. You need to be able to hit a faster ball in system and hit a decent high ball. Is the high ball a necessity? No, if you have a good right side. US currently doesn't.
There's an example, though, of something that can be a differentiator. If you become a really good out-of-system high ball hitter as a left side, you become more valuable. Your currency increases. So it's about finding those areas because everybody can pass. Some people better than others, but marginally play defense. All of those things.
If you can pass and attack, that's step 1. If you can pass and attack and hit a high ball, bonus.
But you need, again, if you're going to play P1, you need to be physical. You need to be able to score. You need to have all of the shots. If you're going to be a P2, your ball control, your defense, your out of system setting, like all of that has to be better than everybody else's.
And that's why we see a player like Kim Hill, who didn't play at a great program. She played at Pepperdine, not in the conversation for national championships. She was able to make a great national team and pro career. Why? Because she played on both sides of the ball. She could pass. She played defense. She was really big, so she could hit at the net, but she could hit out of system as well. She could do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't about maybe she didn't fit into the mold or didn't come into her own in high school to be recruited to a top program. Maybe she didn't want to go to a top program. I don't know what the reasoning was for her to go to Pepperdine. But the fact that she was able to develop all of her skills as a 6 rotation player gave her a great pro career.
Finally, I think the opposite is pretty straightforward. You got to be big, you got to be physical, you got to score, you got to have a good serve.
Just like score points. You need to hit in system. You need to be good at hitting out of system, which I am forever going to be shocked at how people don't train their hitters to hit out of system anymore. Wow. Hello, just do it.
And you can't be an absolute liability on defense.
You need to put up a good block. You need to have an aggressive serve, and don't be a black hole on defense. We're not asking for
you
spectacular.
You can be a gray hole, but you can't be a black hole.
You can be gray. Okay, but don't be like Stishak from Poland and be a literal black hole where the ball will hit you and you don't dig it.
And then in the middle,
we're on one today.
Yeah. Well, but it's a fascinating conversation, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this week because I've loved the questions that have come up. In the middle, everybody can block, so you've got to have.
No, I think, but you see, in the NCAA, you usually have one blocker, one middle who's a good blocker, and one middle who's a good attacker. You don't often see middles that can do both. There are exceptions. This is generally speaking.
Yeah.
But at the bare minimum, you need to be a good blocker.
And then you
need to be able to hit something.
Well, you need a differentiator offensively. So why we like Annie Jackson, she's super dynamic on the slide. So you can plug her into that offense and it's going to work well. And she does that incredibly well. For me personally, if I find a middle who can run in front very effectively, that sets you apart because not a ton of middles are really good at that. Obviously, you have some middles who are just exceptional blockers and they're not great offensively. You can have one of those on your team, but then you
can't have two.
No, you need an offensive threat. So,
but even at the top levels, I would say internationally, your middle who might not be as good offensively needs to be competent enough to hold a block defense.
True. Yeah. And again, that's kind of that's the baseline. Last one, just for argument's sake. What about libero?
Well, you know what I'm going to say. You need to know how to set. Set the ball. Period. Know how to set. Obviously, if you're a libero on the national team, you should be able to pass. You should be able to play defense.
Well, you have to pass a ton of court and you have to be consistent.
Okay, yeah.
Defense
especially
is the
if you're on
bonus
the U.S. national team, be comfortable passing close to half the court.
Yeah.
To cover for those front row left sides.
Maybe not on a spin serve, but definitely on a float serve.
Defensively, you're covering, like you're not looking around. You're able to cover from zone 3 attack line. So the attack line in zone 3 down to the back corner in zone 5.
Yeah.
I would often even say 5-6 seam.
For those who are exceptional.
Yeah. And set the ball.
Lots of conversations about making national teams, different levels of national teams, what kind of potential there is. And again, predicting somebody's potential is not a science. You look at it, people.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
For hitters, when we're talking about being able to hit, I mean, hit against a solid, well-formed block. Anybody can score in a one-on-one. Anybody can score with a truckload of seam. When we're talking about you can hit, I mean, you can hit with 4 hands in your face.
Consistently.
Yes.
In
system and out of system.
Very good point. It's hard to understand. If you don't watch a lot of international volleyball, you maybe don't understand the level or the jump or just how small the opportunity is. And, I heard a lot of comments that were to the point of, well, this person got invited to the gym. 70 or 80 athletes get invited to the gym in the summer. And, if you have a decent college career, you get an invite, you get to come. They want bodies there. You're looking at all of them. They want to see their potential. It's being selected for rosters. That's what kind of sets you apart. And so that's what we look at and kind of think about. So yeah, it was a lot of questions and a very interesting dialogue that I saw this week online. And so I thought it was worth kind of discussing and talking about. And I will give a shout out. I had somebody do a statistical analysis that compared Bergen Riley and Poulter college careers. And I found that fascinating, and Bergen Riley was better in a bunch of the categories. But
it's easy to be better when you're in system and when you have just everybody can score on your team.
True.
That's a luxury in college.
It is. And I will say,
you guys are going to think I hate Bergen Riley, and I'm not doing anything to like make you change that thought process. I'm aware. I do think she is good. Yeah.
Well, but this is the thing. She is very consistent. She's like all of the other Nebraska players. She's very consistent. She doesn't make a ton of errors. She's well skilled around all of the skills, but she doesn't have anything that sets her apart. And she will need to be put into a situation where she is required to elevate. And it will be interesting to see if she can do that.
Well, and here's the thing.
I think Bergen Riley has potential in Player of the Year.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Totally. Like, again, she's an incredible NCAA athlete.
There are certain players that could play for any program and be outstanding. There are just players who are built different. There are players who fit well into a system, and they are excellent, outstanding players within a certain framework. I want to see Bergen Riley outside of the Nebraska framework and see what she would do.
Going back to the statistical analysis, I don't think collegiate success is the best indicator of professional success. There's too many variables. There's coaching style, there's playing time, there's teammates, there's all of these different things that you can't really compare one person's situation to another person's depending on, what conference they play in, who their teammates are at any given time. Those direct comparisons, I don't think are good future predictors of international potential or success. It's an interesting thing to do and to talk about, but I don't think it's super relevant in this conversation. All right, so we had a couple big matches this week, namely the battle for first in the ACC and Nebraska losing their first set in 48 sets, I think, or something crazy like that. So we watched both of those matches. We're going to dive into those and just spend a little time talking about what we saw. So do you want to start with Pitt versus Stanford game or the Nebraska UCLA game?
Well, let's do Pitt Stanford.
Give me your initial impression of that match.
Okay, full disclosure. I was calling a game when this match was happening. I only saw the last 3 sets, but you watched the whole thing.
I watched the whole thing. I actually don't think Stanford should have won that match.
Based on what I saw, which Pitt was up 14-11 in the 5th, no.
The same thing happened in the first set. Pitt was up 24-20, lost 26-24. 2 of the 3 sets that Stanford won, they went on 6 and 5 point runs and with no response from Pitt.
Okay, what happened in the first time that happened?
Error after bad passing. Stanford made a couple plays, good serving. I will say in the first 2 sets, Stanford served really, really well. And they managed to keep Pitt off the net. They knew where the ball was going to go, and they were able to force really good blocks on Babcock. They got a lot of block touch slowdowns, which turned into transition opportunities. They did that very well in the first 2 sets.
Well, and you also messaged me, and you said Logan Parks is really good, and you said Elliot Rubin is really good.
Elliot Rubin, I thought, was really good at the beginning of the match, and then I actually thought Blasov played really well down the stretch.
Somebody correct me. She wasn't playing at the beginning of the season, was she? I think Epar Kurt was in there for a while.
Yeah.
But I've seen Stanford play a few times, and unless I blacked out, which has been known to happen, I don't recall her playing, but she was like unstoppable.
Well, she went 20 for 43 and hit 394 or 349, sorry.
She was
very
solid.
good. Stanford's outside core played really, really well.
Well,
Harvey
their middles
also.
did too.
Their middles did play well. More on the defensive side of the ball. They scored, but they didn't get set a ton.
Every time I saw Lizzie Andrews swing, she scored.
I think she had maybe 7 or 8 points. I think she got 15 or 16 sets.
Okay. But she had like 7 blocks.
Yeah.
In the 4th set, they posted that stat.
She was a factor for sure. To me, Stanford ran the middle enough to keep Pitt honest, and Stanford's outside scored. The other thing I will say, and we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, Stanford ran the pipe a whole bunch in that match, which is not something that they have done super well this season, in my opinion. I know that we've been critical of that before. Here's the one thing I really like about Stanford. Their athletes are smart because they got into Stanford.
They have to actually get accepted on their own merit, not just because they're athletes.
And yes. And historically, Hambly does a really good job of building towards the tournament. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was running the pipe was always on his roadmap, but with a bunch of young players, like, hey, we're not going to add this yet. We're going to add this moving into so that we have another weapon come tournament time. I think he does a really good job of progressing through the season, and his teams always get better. To see them running the pipe, I thought, man, this is a really good addition for them on top of what they had already been done. Their middles are a threat. Their outsides are starting to play better. Again, I think Parks is a fantastic setter. I really liked what she did. Pitt should have won because Babcock was just so good. Stanford doesn't give up. They're disciplined. They get lots of really good block touches. In the sets where Stanford did a good job, they applied really good service pressure. Now, they missed a whole ton of serves, and in sets 1 and 2, Pitt was off the net quite a bit, which eliminated their middles. They kept with that service pressure over the whole match, and even if they were missing, they kept going at it, and I think that mentality stands them in really good stead.
We actually got a question recently about Logan Parks.
Okay.
She can set and hit, maybe like a Campbell Flynn situation, like we see at Nebraska. In her prep days, did both. The question, its essence basically is, what do you do when you have an athlete who can play multiple positions, what is the thought process in making them, or not making them, but having them specialize in one?
You put them where their skill set most values the team. So if she's setting this year because they don't have a better option, great. But in the back of your mind, when you're doing your recruiting, you know that if you get a blue chip setter, you can keep her on the court and move her to swing. So it gives you flexibility as a coach, A, in terms of your recruiting, but B, in terms of maximizing potential and putting pieces where you need them. And right now, setting is where she brings the most value to the team. Maybe when Elia Rubin leaves, that's not the case.
I had a similar experience, albeit not at the same level. So my club team ran a 6-2 forever. Like I was a setter and a hitter. I did both for our national team programs as well. And then in my junior year of high school, it was like, okay, yeah, we need you to hit way more than we need you to set. And so I became exclusively a right side hitter, and the rest is history. The exact same thing as you just described, as like the thought process of what to do when players can do both, happened to me.
It's totally situational dependent, and there might be nights where if your left side goes down and you need her to play left side, you put another setter in. It's a security blanket to have a player who can do multiple things, and she's just an incredible athlete.
On to Pitt, because let me tell you, you're up 14-11 in the fifth. They rolled in set 3 and 4. Like they found their rhythm.
Well, they started passing.
And Babcock was unstoppable.
Yes, but they also
Bayless came on hot too.
Bayless stunk in the first 2 sets and then got much better, and they started getting Bree Kelly the ball.
Complete turnaround.
Yes.
Okay, we were looking at a potential reverse sweep, and it should have been a reverse sweep. We get to 14. What?
No, it should have been a reverse sweep, but it should have been over in 4. Pitt should
if they
have
had
won the
gotten
first
their
set.
act together in the beginning. Okay, fair. Yeah. You have your go-to hitter who had been virtually unstoppable in the sets 3 and 4 in the front row, okay, at 14-11. I will give Elia Rubin credit. She went back to serve at 14-12 because Stanford sided out.
Ice in the veins.
Nailed her serves. I'm not just talking like, oh, let's keep them in. She targeted the French girl, whose name eludes me at the moment, faders to the sideline.
Oh.
Like, we're not talking like, oh, let's keep it in. We're not talking like, oh, just make this person pass. We're talking make this person pass and go to the ground. And she nailed it. Every ball.
That might have been the most impressive part of that whole match, was just her ability to keep Pitt under pressure in that moment.
But here's the thing. Pitt gets a free ball back at 14-12, and their libero passes it too tight.
I knew this was coming.
I wanted to punch the TV. You're the libero on one of the top teams in the country, and you are not going to execute a free ball pass at match point?
Do your job.
Single-handedly, I'm like, it's your fault you lost.
Quite frankly, that ball should have gone to Babcock, and it should have been game over 15-12.
We're talking the most basic skill here. Free ball passing. Focus in, pass the ball. It's your job. Okay, putting that aside. French girl can't pass. I repeat, you have your go-to hitter in the front row. She's a right side. If you are unable to get a high ball to the right side, front row, what are you even doing? That is how bad the passing was.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she got a swing.
She got one that was set by the libero behind the attack line.
Roll shot over.
She couldn't do anything. She couldn't do anything. I want to say 2 players just completely melted down. Girl, get the ball high in the middle of the court. You've got the best player in the country in the front row. Just give her a high ball. The game will be over. We're not looking for a 3 pass here. Get it high in the middle of the court. Outrageous.
These are the kinds of things that can happen in pressure situations. You have to give Stanford credit. They didn't give up. They kept their foot on the gas in both those sets where they were down. But man, you've got to close that out. That's got to be, and that's for Stanford.
Here's what Adam's going to call back what his previous comment was.
No, Stanford plays SMU on Sunday. They need to win that game to wrap up the ACC. You're
So
playing.
we're clearly recording this before that happens.
Correct. You're playing to host to the Final Four.
Yeah, a regional.
And you can't close on 2 occasions.
And one of those is a free ball.
Yeah, that is not a good
You give
headspace
up
to be in.
5 match points. You give 5 points in a row.
Yes.
Gross.
I don't know what to say. I kind of laughed on the first set. Like, it happens and you're like, okay, Stanford came back. Way to not give up. Pitt's going to roll here. Then they lose again. Then they play incredibly well. And then you cough up another lead. Like, it's concerning, quite frankly. And this is what we've talked about. They're a one-trick team if they can't run the middle and run the left side. Blair Bayless played really well sets 3, 4, and 5. Bree Kelly played well when they passed the ball. They're very hard to stop when they're clicking like that.
But this is what we've been talking about all season.
Yeah.
Not only could they not get anybody else the ball, they couldn't even get Olivia Babcock the ball. This is the exact scenario we have been talking about. And when we talked about it in the past, it was like, okay, well, if Olivia Babcock isn't on, then what? Well, guess what?
She was on.
She was on, and you couldn't get her the ball.
Now, I did think that Brooke Mosher set a good game. I really like her serve. I thought she played well when she had the ability to run the offense. So that's a good combination with both her and Babcock hitting pretty good serves. They can put some teams in trouble. You can't melt down at the end of sets. So I'm curious to see.
And a good job by Stanford for sticking with it. And I'll say it again, Ilya Rubin, those serves at the end could not have been better.
Stanford did an incredible job playing defense. They were prepared. They didn't give Babcock's going to score. They did a really good job on getting slowdowns and touches and taking care of their transition opportunities when they had them. To me, that's the game plan against Pitt. You serve really well, try and take out the middle. Again, Bayless struggled in the first 2 sets. She found her own way. Good for her. But you're making life difficult for Babcock or trying to take her out. With kudos to them. They have a really good chance of finishing first in the ACC, which good for them.
And good for Adam because he was the only one in our Power 4 forecast episode that picked Stanford to win the ACC. So
I'm not going to lie, being right is pretty fun.
That's actually why he wanted to talk about this match, but whatever.
Nebraska comes to the West Coast. Everybody comes to the West Coast hoping for sun, warmth, an escape from winter. They arrived in the middle of an atmospheric river event. It's cold. It's raining. And
Which
some of their
I
players.
love. I'm all about that.
Yeah, but we live here. We get the sun.
I love it when it rains.
The Nebraska fans turned up in LA. But some of the Nebraska players, they
stayed home.
What were your thoughts on that game?
As you mentioned, they dropped their first set in a couple months. So that pressure's off.
I actually think that's a positive.
I agree. I think it's a positive. It just looked like an uninspired performance to me.
Well, they kicked the snot out of them in the first set. UCLA hit 0. For all intents and purposes, they should have kept that rolling. They started and they looked like Nebraska. They just didn't continue that.
No, some of the players looked disengaged to me, looked disinterested. To UCLA's credit, their outsides did really well. I call some UCLA games, so I've seen them play a bunch. Maggie Lee played the best game she's played all season.
I think that was the team's best game I've seen.
Lola Schumacher holds it down for them all the time.
She's incredible.
Singletary is near the top of the Big Ten in blocks per set. Like, she blocks really well. Their outsides played an outstanding, fearless match.
Yeah.
Singletary blocked really well. Their right side still does nothing.
Non-factor.
But Nebraska, I'll say it again, uninspired. And I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but I did not like Bergen Riley's setting. I thought it was all over the place. I thought Nebraska was out of system more than they usually are. And her out of system sets, which I was critical of last season, came back and were spraying all over the place. I don't think she set a great match.
I'm going to put a small caveat on what you said. I thought she set the middles well. I thought she ran the middle of the court well. So their middles were their best players. They had 28 kills on the match. And I thought her choice of running the pipe was also good. She ran Alec really well, like 9 or 10 feet off the net, pushed the middle in that way, connected with Jackson. But I agree, her sets to the outside, specifically the right side, but out of system on the left side as well, where the distance off the net was not good.
But inconsistent too. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
the same type of error. It was way too far off the net, then tight, then way too far off the net, then tight, and then the outside ball way too far off the net, then too wide.
Well, this is
Not good.
This is something I've talked to other coaches about. You can't fix the error you just made. You have to make the right play afterwards. And that's kind of what I saw, where she would yin-yang mistakes. So she would set one here and then she would overcorrect.
Or yo-yo. Either way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. Well, and she got pulled in the third set too.
Which is another big respect move I have for Danny Busboom.
100%.
Like she does not mess around.
Do you think she pulled the right side because she wasn't playing well, or to give
Check a chance?
Yeah.
I don't think she cares if anybody gets a chance.
Okay. But did you think that Adriano played poorly in the first set?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I don't think she hit well, but I also don't think she was put in a great position to score. But we've seen her being inconsistent all season. But then she put her back in set 4.
Yeah, well, I didn't think Sheck was very good either.
I think Sheck started out well in set 2 and then was just like neutral for me.
Well, in set 3, Nebraska hit 190, which might be their worst team hitting percentage on the season, maybe.
Yeah.
Here's something else that was interesting that I noticed as well. I actually think Nebraska is the perfect matchup for UCLA in the way they run their team. I think that their staff is incredibly well prepared for opponents. I don't think, and I've said this before, that they make very good in-game adjustments. Now, when you play the best team, they don't make adjustments because they make you beat them at what they're good at, and they know that they're
like,
probably going to win.
Our good is better than your good, so try to stop us.
100%. And so you started to see that he clearly told Maggie Lee to swing down the line at the outside hand, and she did that really well. Nebraska didn't really make an adjustment. They clearly had game plan that Bergen Riley loves to run the middle from 9 or 10 feet off the net. The number of times I saw Singletary commit block on those passes was almost automatic. It was definitely the game plan. And so UCLA was prepared for their tendencies and they didn't change them. And so they were able to get success and get some touches and make some transition. I thought Lola Schumacher was unbelievable. Some of the digs that she made.
She has honestly been the reason UCLA's in any conversation this whole season, I think.
She's their MVP. Hands down.
100%.
Hands down. I think the fact that they could prepare for Nebraska, and Alfie Reft, he's been part of the U.S. national program. Like, he's seen how Karch prepares game plans. They were ready. They had done their homework. They're just not as good as Nebraska. That's the issue. If a better team had implemented that game plan against Nebraska, I'm not sure they would have won that match. But their middles saved them, quite frankly.
Oh, their middles saved them for sure. I didn't think Harper Murray did much either. I'm sure people aren't going to like to hear that either, but...
Well, defensively, she had some hip bends or some bends at the waist for some token
Yeah,
dig.
the balls were coming seam, and I saw like baby giraffe move, like keep your legs straight, just bend at the waist. Oh, too bad I didn't dig it. Like, what are you doing? Where's the effort here?
I kind of think after the first set, they figured they were just going to roll them and that they were going to
Well, I don't
away.
care what your thought process was. You lost the third set because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, at least 3 of her kills came from overpasses created by other players. Like, offensively, she didn't really do a lot for me either.
I thought Landfair took care of the
Landfair did
balls.
great,
Yeah,
and I think she blocked really well. Particularly in the first couple sets, she just owned PK Kong. It looked a little uninspired by a couple Nebraska athletes, but I agree with you. Their middles scored more points than everybody else combined.
What is your thought process on, I mean, they come to the West Coast. It's obviously much later back home. You know, they're playing at 11, 12 o'clock local time. Is that a factor? Does that matter?
Well, what are you going to do at a national championship where you have to wait until the match before you ends? Like, if the match before you goes 5 sets, you're playing late at night. They've played late at night before. For me, that's just a bad excuse.
Fair enough.
We have gotten a question, though, about Bergen Riley. I'm curious about your thoughts.
Okay.
This question was, do you think Bergen Riley repeats to a hitter after an error too often to the point that it's become too predictable? And do you think that will be a problem against better teams later on?
I have a couple thoughts about this.
So basically what this question means is, like, if a hitter goes up and gets blocked Bergen Riley tends to set that player again. Or if a hitter goes up and hits the ball out, she will set that player again right away.
So this is an interesting, I'm gonna call it a tendency in air quotes for a second. As a hitter, I love this. And
100%.
Yeah.
Like for me, if somebody blocked me and then I saw their reaction, I'm like, F this, give me the ball again. I'm going to shut these people up.
Correct. Let's be honest. We are occasionally critical of some of Nebraska's hitters, but they're very good. Like the chance of their hitters making 2 errors in a row statistically is very small. But it doesn't happen. So getting them back into the game and getting them set again, I think is in general a good strategy. 2, statistically, this is very hard to track in terms of seeing how many times it happens. And it's also one of those things that once you see it, sticks in your brain. So I don't have the numbers. I haven't run them. I would actually be surprised what the numbers are, like if it's statistically relevant or not, or if she's looking at it. Now you'll see it and you'll think, oh, there it is. But you won't pay attention to the times when it doesn't happen. So I'm not saying it's not statistically happening, because I've noticed that as well, but it may not be quite as significant as the eye test passes for that one. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it just speaks to how much confidence she has in her hitters' abilities. And I agree with you, they're good enough that
especially
will they be stopped twice in a row? I'd be surprised. Do I think it will hurt them later? I think she has a good enough feel for the game that I don't think it'll be an issue.
But you'll also notice when she does it, it's earlier in matches. I don't think she does it after 20. I think after 20, she's running her offense. You can also take that and toy with the opponent. If they commit on one ball, then you're like, okay, they know this is a tendency. You keep that in your back pocket and you use it again after. It's in her favor regardless.
For UCLA, I've seen them play some weaker teams and they just completely tank. And then I see them play Nebraska and they're a different team. Like for me, you need to take care of the games you're supposed to take care of. Girls, nobody out there expects you to beat Nebraska, but then you show up and then you go 18-16 in the 5th with Northwestern. That is the problem for me with those mid-range teams. Take care of the games you quote unquote should take care of, and then take care of the other matches too. Like prepare for every game the same. Go into every match with the same attitude. That's the frustrating part for me watching this UCLA performance and then watching some of their other ones.
What did you think of the World Series winning celebration after the 3rd set?
It was embarrassing.
I agree.
Okay, you win the 3rd set. You beat Nebraska in a set for the first time in Big Ten play. The way you're celebrating, I was cringing watching it because it's like so clear to me that you had no expectation of winning. And
the thing for me, it's realistic that you don't have an expectation of beating Nebraska. I understand that they've won 48
respect
sets in a row.
yourselves enough to play it cool.
That's the piece.
You're showing Nebraska that they're out of your league.
100%. You can be happy you won, but you go over the game's not over. You didn't accomplish anything. That's a mentality piece, and we've talked about UCLA's mentality. That's a mentality piece that is totally unacceptable. To the point where, as a coach, I may have benched all of those players and put my bench on and been like, that's unacceptable. You can't do that. That's not how we roll.
You wouldn't have done that.
I know. I'm being facetious, but that's a fundamental issue to me.
I almost wanted to turn the TV off when I saw that. I was like, this is not cool.
We were sitting there watching the game, and I was like, they are going to get absolutely thumped in the next set because Nebraska's going to be pissed, and you're just happy you took a set. Yeah,
you guys are just happy to be there. Like, P.S., you need to win 3 sets to be happy about anything, not one.
And they got kicked.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah,
Here's another thing I want to address.
Go ahead.
This has been bothering me. So, Nebraska is leading the country in attendance at home, and the second highest attendance in the country is Nebraska on the road. I think that's great. They have built themselves a following, a reputation. You know, they are growing the sport as a team the way Caitlin Clark kind of did on the basketball side. That's great. The thing that bothers me is that we've got these programs being like, hey, help us sell out or like set our attendance record when Nebraska comes to town. Stop riding the coattails of a team that has figured it out. And how about you work on building your own fan base and your own program instead of relying on Nebraska? How about, hey, let's sell out and set a record when we play USC?
Our hometown rivals.
Every team is doing this. Nebraska's coming on X date. Let's set a record then. Stop it.
And our record includes more than half Nebraska fans. It's not even a home game for UCLA.
That's the thing. It's just
I heard more Go Big Red cheers than anything else.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. You're setting an attendance record, but the whole crowd is wearing red. Like, you should be ashamed of that. I'm sorry. Like, let's put an asterisk next to that attendance. So how about every program starts to do what needs to be done to grow the sport of volleyball, to garner interest in their own backyard, instead of relying on Nebraska, who has it figured out, to come to your program and do it for you. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Fair point. I do think that Nebraska losing a set is good. I think it takes the pressure off them to have an immaculate season.
Oh, this will serve them well for sure. They needed to get that monkey off their back. The media is always like, oh, blah, 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 haven't lost a set. And then it's constantly being put in your face. And especially at that age, like, they're young women, it just like weighs on you. So I think it's good that that's done with and they can just go back to playing.
And that was a prediction we were both right on.
I'm really happy about that. I posted on Instagram. I was like, we might have to take this back, but now we don't.
I actually think it would be good for them to lose a match before they go into the tournament, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Anyway, they have USC tomorrow. So we'll see what Nebraska shows up and if they're a little more focused.
Okay, let's dive into some listener questions.
Well, first of all, we put out the notice for questions for teams other than Nebraska, and people showed up. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to getting to some of those answers.
Yeah, you guys heeded the call. And in my selections for questions this week, I tried to hit several different teams because you guys, as Adam said, stepped up. And then we've got some general ones. So if you did submit a question about your team, it will be addressed in the coming weeks. Don't worry. Question 1. My question has been nagging me since watching so many games where NCAA Division I volleyball teams rely on maybe one or two players to get the majority of the points. Does this not increase the chance of long-term damage to those athletes that are swinging 50 to 70 times a match? I would think the wear and tear on that limited number of players would increase the chance for injury now and affect their future.
I mean, wear and tear is always an issue, but I'm not sure. If you're a go-to player, you're taking a ton of swings. Whether you take 38 swings or whether you take 50 swings, there's not a huge difference. I think it's more about your preparation for how you take care of yourself, how you warm up, your day-to-day routine. Because you have to remember, fine, you're taking 50 swings in a match, but what are you doing during the week? A lot of those players don't take as many swings, Monday and Tuesday, and then ramp up again. So there's ways to manage that. I don't think that sheer number in match is the biggest contributing factor to long-term injury.
I think it determines how they're being used in practice. And if their coaching staff is being mindful of the swings that they're taking during the week, taking that many swings twice a week for match day, yeah, it's all a balance.
And I mean, again, there's other things to think about, right? Is your technique good? If you're swinging on 50 balls and you don't have great technique, you're going to apply more pressure to your shoulder. I mean, I look at Sarah, she was a go-to hitter for 2 decades indoor. When you played in the Asian leagues, you were swinging on 60, 70 balls a night, and you were shoulder-wise injury-free for most of your career. So there are ways to do it. Genetics plays a part, recovery plays a part, all of those things. So that in and of itself, I don't think is the biggest indicator of future injury.
Question 2. Several of the elite players like Mimi Collier, Olivia Babcock, Kennedy Martin keep getting honored for the number of kills they get each match. Considering that they're being set 85% plus of the time and are sometimes playing 4 and 5 sets per match, is that fair to athletes? In this case, they mention Harper Murray, who's only being set about 50% of the time and playing 3 sets per match.
Who cares who wins athlete of the week?
No, I honestly think it's also a question of kills per set, which I think is definitely more of an indicator than just straight kills, and hitting percentage. So hitting percentage doesn't really have anything to do with the number of sets you're getting. And Harper Murray's hitting percentage is not as high as some of those athletes. I'm sure somebody's going to go digging and try to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I am. I don't know. It is so impressive when you are one of the players on a team that is getting the majority of sets and you're still able to score at that kind of clip. I think that what Kennedy Martin's doing and Mimi Collier at their programs, where they're more limited in the hitters surrounding them, is much more impressive than what Harper Murray is doing. Yeah, at the end of the day, whoever wins Player of the Week, like it's not a big deal in my opinion.
This is a byproduct of playing for Nebraska. You play on a team that has a chance to win a national championship every year. You're always in the conversation. You know you're going to be surrounded by other great athletes. You're not going to get the individual accolades that some of these other athletes are going to get at the program. That's part of playing for Nebraska, and you need to be okay with it. And again, do you want to have 5 athlete of the weeks, or do you want to have a national championship? Take your pick. You can't always have both, and it doesn't matter. Nobody remembers who was athlete of the week October 10th.
Adam's clearly passionate about it. Look, this is the sassiest we've ever heard Adam get, and it's about Player of the Week.
It's about winning championships, period. I think there's too many random awards that are handed out in everything, not only NCAA volleyball.
I think I need to make a segment about this because like the number of awards that they now give out on a weekly basis, like I'm sorry, you're giving out a freshman of the week, you're giving out a setter of the week. You know what? Back in my day, and yes, I'm using back in my day, there was like Player of the Week, period.
No, they're Instagram
now
awards.
It's just like, let's give an award to literally everybody for everything. And then like the all region awards, like where did that come from?
Instagram.
Okay, you know what? Player of the Year. When did Defensive Player of the Year become a thing?
I'm okay with that one.
I'm not. Well, defensive players will rarely win Conference Player of the Year, so fine, whatever. Setter of the Year. You guys, Player of the Year, period. I think this is a generational thing where everybody needs a trophy for participating. But anyway,
this is a household where participation medals will end up in the garbage.
He's not wrong. Okay, question 3. I hear the same thing about players transferring to new programs again and again. They lost the love for the game. This person uses Merritt Beeson and Taylor Landfair as an example. Do you think going from Minnesota or Florida, which were mid-ranked teams at the time, to a top 3 team changed their love for the game? Or do you think it's the fact that they just couldn't be an X factor to push their first school to the top?
This is a really tough question because everybody has different motivations. Don't get me wrong. There are situations where you don't like your teammates and you don't get along and you're leaving because looking at player X's face every day drives you crazy. I get that's definitely a thing.
If you're losing and you're not winning a national championship, would that make you lose the love for the game?
Well, no, I think that's an excuse for I want to win. I'm going to go somewhere else. You can't come out and say that. It's not good for your image.
But I think the question, like when you're recruited to a program like that, you're well aware of what their status is. So I think the underlying thing here is like, do you think players like this, we're not talking about these 2 players in particular. That was just an example for the question. Do you think there are certain players out there that get recruited to programs like that are really good, but not like cream of the crop?
Mm-hmm.
Think that they're good enough to be the difference maker when they get there, realize they're not able to like push them to that level. And it's just, I lost the love for the game. I need to leave.
Yeah, I definitely think so. What does love for the game mean? Do you like training? Do you like winning? Why are you there in the first place? And maybe you weren't good enough to go to that top tier program and you needed to play a year or 2 where maybe you thought you'd make it different. Like there's just so many reasons, and I've lost my love for the game is the default excuse because nobody can argue with you, right? And nobody's going to say anything. You're like, oh, I didn't love it here. I'm going to go somewhere else. That's way easier for people to swallow than to say, well, I don't think we're going to win. I'm going to go somewhere where I can win.
But I think this also ties into the question we just answered too, is like you can go to a program and be the show and be the franchise player, but your team might not win.
Yeah.
Or you can go to a team that has a chance to win legit year after year, maybe not shine as brightly, maybe even be on the bench, but have a chance to win a championship. It all depends on your priorities and what you want out of the game.
And I think that those moods also, people's ability to deal with uncomfortable situations has shortened. Like, I don't want to sit on the bench, or I don't want to do this. I have an easy out. I'm going to go try somewhere else. Like, that wasn't the case 10 years ago when you were playing collegiate sport. Like, you stuck out a
He's
year.
being generous.
10
years. Thank
So-
you.
I think there's all kinds of reasons, and I definitely think that this is one.
People are very good these days at saying things that nobody can argue with.
Yeah.
I'll
totally.
leave it there. Question 4. What do you think about Northwestern's use of one libero for a middle and outsides and a DS for the other middle? What is the advantage of this? Okay, you see this with a bunch of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Often you'll see the DS go for an outside, but I would say, and then you see the libero go for both middles. An advantage to doing this is because the libero can only serve for one person on the court. So if you have the libero going for both middles, one of those middles has to serve. If both of your middles are not good servers, that's why you'll use your DS for the other middle so that the DS can serve for the middle. Does that make sense?
Well answered.
That honestly, you see both middles and typically one outside be subbed out of the back row. So the reason that they've kind of mixed it up is, I would assume, to be a serving strategy.
You're trying to keep your two worst servers from touching the ball at the baseline.
I called that game, by the way. And the person who wrote this question knew that. So thanks for watching. Question 5. Back in your junior days, like playing club volleyball,
Ooh.
what was the turning point for you when you became the ice princess? When did you stop overthinking and just started curve stopping your opponents with no remorse? What did your coaches do or provide you with to allow you to become your most confident version as a teen? Okay, first of all, I will say, I must have mentioned it. If the ice princess is being referenced, I must have mentioned it because
We have talked about
called that in Korea when I played in Korea, and I didn't know because obviously I can't understand Korean, but my translator was like, "Are you aware that they call you that?" I was like, "No, but I love it. Thank you."
Just for everybody to know, when Sarah was playing club volleyball, her nickname was the franchise. That's what everybody called her.
This is a good question. I will say I've received a lot of criticism over my career for that ice princess persona and having no remorse and no mercy. I will say I was incredibly competitive from
Birth.
toddlerhood. Like, I would cry losing board games. I had to win literally everything.
Which got dicey because her dad's the same way. So when they would play games when she was a child, there was sometimes some fireworks.
That's a nice way to put it. So I would say that a large majority of that persona you saw in a competitive environment is innate, but I grew up in an environment where my examples of athletes and competitors were men. So my dad was still playing basketball and volleyball and stuff when I was born. So I would go with him to a lot of his games. And my dad was coaching boys and men at the university and high school level. So I would go and I was in the gym every day and I would travel to tournaments with them, like as a 5-6-year-old, stuff like that. And so my example of what it meant to compete and fight on the court for wins was watching boys. So I thought that that was normal. And then to my dad was my club coach. To my dad's credit, he never tried to make me a nice girl and never tried to be like, well, this is how girls act. Like, you're not acting appropriately. It was very much, you be yourself and you don't have to make other people comfortable. You just be you. It's a combination of nature and nurture there, in the sense that it is very innate to be a true competitor, win at all costs. And I was never forced to be a quote unquote nice girl. My parents and I received a lot of criticism as a young athlete for being just so cutthroat and fierce on the court. But the people that mattered to me and who knew me didn't want me to change. And they accepted me for who I am. And that included my teammates. Question 6. As a Vanderbilt grad, I'm so excited that we now have a women's volleyball team.
Congrats.
I've been impressed by the strategic decisions they've made to start and develop a program, such as hiring a young coach from an established program, get an older setter to establish the offense, etc. If you're an athletic director or coach, how would you develop a new program? How would you rank your priorities?
First and foremost, you have to build a culture and you have to create expectations for where you are currently with the athletes that you have and where you want to go.
But I think the question is, one of their priorities was they hired a young coach from an established program he was coaching at Kentucky for a long time.
Yeah.
And
to me, that's about understanding how to create a winning culture and expectations.
Okay, because I was thinking like a culture is determined once you have certain pieces in place. But continue.
That's definitely true. But bringing in somebody who knows how to win and say, again, you don't know what athletes you're going to get. It's a first-time program. You're not going to have you're not going to win a lot.
But like what type of athlete would you go for first?
I would probably bring in, because you're not going to be able to recruit really good athletes. Nobody's going to go there and take a flyer. So for me, I would go out and look at really physical, maybe a little rough around the edges technically, but attitudes that are going to work hard. And then it's from there you're going to hone them, because you have to create a place where people want to come and play. And if you can take a couple really physical athletes and teach them the game or help them become better and noticeable, people will take note of that and then will want to come. So maybe it's an athlete that started playing volleyball in high school or started a little bit later, or who multi-sport athlete who decided late they wanted to play volleyball. I would look for those types of athletes, and I would look for people who were competitive by nature. Losing is tough, and if you lose a lot, that becomes who you are. So you need some of those personalities to be able to build into winning and still work hard while maybe you're not getting the results that you have. So that's how I would approach it.
I think starting with a more experienced setter, if possible, is a good idea, because they're going to touch the ball more than anybody.
Yeah, starting with that, if you get a good outside who can pass the ball, like if you can.
This is a perfect 6 rotation skilled player, but not like the monster attacker. Yeah. That's the perfect situation for those 6 rotation skilled players that might be overlooked by the biggest programs, but are good.
Totally. Then you're at least competitive. You may not be winning, but you can pass and you set. It looks put together. You have, a little bit of skill, even if you don't have the size. So maybe mixing that with a couple projects is your best kind of mix for starting that program.
Question 7. Do you think if Mary Wise hadn't retired that the Gators would have been a top contender this season? Her departure likely led to the Kennedy Martin transfer to Penn State, as well as Heredia Cologne rescinding her transfer from Miami. These are the exact 2 pieces missing from this team, in my opinion. 2 6-rotation players in a dominant right side and solid ball control scoring outside to go along with Jordan Bird and Madkin. What are your thoughts?
If those 2 players are there, that program's totally different.
I think Mary Wise leaving is the reason. I think Mary Wise leaving and Dave Booz not being given the head coaching job led to the Kennedy Martin departure. And I think the Kennedy Martin departure led to the Heredia Cologne departure. I think it was a domino effect.
I agree. Again, I think if you have those 2 players there and a healthy Stuckey, that program is fighting for top of the conference, and they're much better than they are currently.
Can you imagine those 2 on the same team? Like they're both scoring like 40 points a night by themselves. Like if they were together, you literally don't need anybody else to score.
Yeah.
You have some get the middle going, blocking, set them a few times. These 2 can score with a double block anyways. Our typical discourse of get the middle going to open things up. Certain hitters are fine hitting against a double block. Yeah. These 2 are some of them. So just have somebody who can pass the ball. Basically.
Yeah, it would have been a totally different season in Florida if those 2 players were there. And agreed, I think if Mary Wise had stayed, Florida would be in the conversation this year, quite frankly.
Or even if Florida had hired Dave Booz, who was the associate head coach under Mary Wise, if they had hired him, I think it would have been a different story. And let me tell you, Dave Booz recruited me when he was at Minnesota under Mike Hebert when I was getting recruited. Loved him. He was the best. I can understand why Kennedy Martin wanted him to be the head coach because like when he recruited me, I thought he was amazing. Question 8. What are 3 areas of opportunities for improvement for Pitt that you see before the postseason? We just destroyed Pitt a little bit in the Stanford segment. So here we go. Adam.
Passing. You have to be able to pass the ball. Here's the thing that I love about as seasons go on. Your weaknesses get exposed. At the beginning of the season, it's rainbows and butterflies for everybody. And as more film comes up and weaknesses are exposed and the season drags on and the book is out on you, it gets harder and harder. Pitt has to be able to pass the ball, number one.
They've had games where they do pass, but the games that they don't, everybody watch out. We need some consistency here.
But even in that Stanford game alone, they passed well in sets 3 and 4, and they were untouchable. When Bayless can score and Kelly can score, and then you have Babcock as a release for whenever, those are 3 really good pieces, and you don't need much more than that, but you need the ball in front of the attack line. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is they need a little more serving pressure.
You're getting it from Mosher and Babcock.
Yes, but the other ones tend to be really safe. If they could dial it up 10 more %, maybe be a little more strategic with their serving or take away a couple options, it will allow their block defense to play into the strategy a little bit more because teams won't just be running at them with all of their options. So that's the next one. Defensively, I don't love them. I don't think that's their strength. But for me, the serving and the defense go hand in hand. Like they score points when Mosher's serving, right? The block comes into play. They have some good blockers, but
passing.
Yeah. Passing 1, 2, and 3, and then like some serving, which will help the defense.
All right. Question 9. What are your thoughts on current college players having absolutely zero clue about players or programs that come before them? I've seen so many videos of players being asked who has won the most championships in volleyball, and there will be answers like Illinois. Why aren't more players students of the game and knowledgeable about the players, coaches, programs that paved the way for them now?
This is a byproduct of youth. I have to admit, I was 100% this way myself as an athlete. You have so much going on in your own life.
I think it's just people.
Yeah, and you're focused on what you're doing. And I don't think it's until you get into those programs and you understand the history, your world's just not big enough to care about what somebody did before you. I think this is totally normal.
Well, just case in point, like Adam and I went to watch like Ontario provincials. My dad and his mom run 2 of the bigger clubs in Ontario. So we go to support our parents and what they do. So we went to Ontario provincials this year. Adam told me this after the fact, but I walked into the gym. I was trying to find a friend, and a person that we both know, I walked past them or whatever, and a few parents were there. And the man turned to those parents and he was like, "Oh, do you realize one of Canada's best volleyball players just walked past here?" And the parents looked at him and he's like, "Well, of course, everybody wants to come watch this." I think that perfectly sums up like just people's attitudes in general. Does everybody want to go watch like 15U girls club volleyball? I'm sorry to tell you, no, it is not a hot ticket item for many people. But I think that just like is case in point. You're so wrapped up in your own little world and what you're doing that you just have blinders on. Yeah. And I just think it's an unfortunate part of human nature.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? College is the next step of life. And when you get there, then you start to understand, people who have gone before you and all of those things. So
but I think it is each program's responsibility to educate their own athletes of what has been done so that they can have what they currently have.
Yeah. And that happens after you get there, though.
Yeah.
So. Sarah, I know you have strong opinions about Minnesota in general. However, with this team down 4 starters to injuries, what is your take on the freshmen that have stepped up to keep us sort of competitive in the middle of the Big Ten? and still somehow ranked in the top 25.
Okay, we were pretty critical early when all these injuries happened. We watched Minnesota and we were like, ooh, this is rough. Sorry,
And I think
baby
that
girl's
was-
got a lot to say for this question. It's our last one. They have gotten so much better.
Yes.
And I think they are going to be good in the next few years. And they're turning an unfortunate situation into something that can probably springboard them forward for the next few years. So it is definitely a silver lining. I really like the one left side. I'm not going to lie, I don't know all of their names. The one left side is doing a great job. Their right side,
Yes.
the setter,
They have
they're doing good things.
I just hope they stay. If this is always the issue, there's a good young core there. I hope that they were able to create an environment where those kids want to come back, because I think they've done a really good job. Like we said, created an atmosphere where they're being successful given the situation that they were in, and these young kids are stepping up. So if they all stay, I think the future's bright for Minnesota. I like the pieces they have, and I think that the coaching staff has done a really good job with them. So
I just hope they have like longer term vision. Like
yeah.
they're able to see, hey, we're all really young. We can do this together.
Yeah.
Because I think that they could make some serious moves in the future for sure.
Yeah. So I think the future's bright in Minnesota. All right. As always, we're going to give you the matches of the week to look forward to, things that we have on our calendars that we'll be watching. So this week, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, Purdue versus Wisconsin. This is a big one. Purdue just lost to Oregon. They're battling for second place in the Big Ten. It will be a really good game and a kind
Hopefully.
hopefully, kind of a test of styles, in my opinion. They play differently. I think this is going to be a really interesting game. And quite frankly, I have no idea what the outcome is. I wouldn't be surprised with either
way.
and or like a kicking one way 3-0 or a 5-setter. So for the intrigue alone, I think this match will be worth it. Friday at 8 p.m. we have Kansas versus BYU. Again, we're in the Big 12 slop of who's going to finish where. So those are always interesting.
Big 12 keeps messing us up week after week.
Oh, it's wild what's happening in the Big 12. And then Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Nebraska versus Indiana. And Sunday at 1 p.m., we have North Carolina versus Miami. And North Carolina has been coming on. And Miami...
One trick pony, but...
It's a good pony.
A good pony.
Those are the matches that we think will be worth watching this week. So we hope you tune in.
That concludes this week's episode of Volley Talk. There's always something shaking in the volleyball world, and we hope you enjoyed this little fix. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss any updates, and we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Instagram at volleytalk_podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, you can reach out to us on Instagram or at info@sarahpavin.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.